And this is the part of the presentation that is a little bit of a downer. It's based on some research we did in our State of the Industry report for Commercial Integrator in 2018. And most of the findings from that report were actually really optimistic and growing. But there was a big disappointment in the findings, and disappointment was a word used by NSCA Executive Director Chuck Wilson. We work with NSCA on compiling that research. So that big disappointment were the numbers that show that the AV industry transition from project to service-based revenue just isn't going that great. An inexcusable 20% report that they earn zero via service contracts, via any kind of service. Nearly a third, 30%, earn only 1 to 5% of their revenue via service. You know, as Wilson put it, we're stuck, and he's talking about the AV integration industry. So what he said is, it sure seems like people are aware of the need to transform into a managed services company, but they still struggle with it. So Brian, what do you see as some of the risks of a purely product-based revenue stream? Because I want to kind of talk about that challenge that I recognized at the beginning that the industry is having with the transition. Why is it so important to make that transition? What are some of the risks of not making that transition?
Yeah, well, I'd say there are several. I mean, whether it's our industry, you know, in the AV business or any business really, I don't think anybody on this call would argue that diversifying income streams and sources of income is important to the long-term health of any company. You know, the product, in this case the hardware, is the product regardless of where the client decides to purchase. So if it's a, you know, a speaker from X manufacturer, they can buy that from anywhere, okay? So, and again, I don't think anybody expects that all of a sudden hardware margins are going to magically start increasing as time goes on. As a matter of fact, they'll probably continue to decrease, which has been the trend. So, you know, your customer's experience and potential for repeat business is going to be based on the overall delivery of the hardware and the customer service that you provide and the associated services that go along with that. So, I mean, if you're not providing a service-based model, it's certainly, I see it to be more challenging to differentiate yourself from your competitors. I would say also that you would be limiting your revenue potential, especially as we're all, you know, ourselves included, subject to declining hardware margins. And another thing I can mention is that when it comes to seasonality, you would be more challenged handling that without a source of recurring revenue. So revenue that you can rely on, even in slow times, you know that you're going to have some repeat or recurring service-based revenue to help you get through those slow months.